grand opening, grand closing. Welcome, my friends, my family, my fellow gamers. Your only friend these YouTube streets, Puerto77, back with another video. All right, let's go straight to it, right? Instead of me trying to explain what's going on, it's all right. I'll kind of explain. People still, a lot of gamers still don't know what's going on, right? And what's happening in gaming, in particular to the direction of Xbox. Xbox consoles, Microsoft's vision, how is that related to PlayStation, things like that. Let's use this, right? Insider Gaming was reporting that for Forza Horizon 5 PS5 release was ready but delayed, meaning that the game is done, but they delayed the release for whatever reason, right? An Xbox gamer replied, "It's one-sided. All Xbox exclusive coming to PS5, but none of PS5 exclusives coming to Xbox. Fuck PlayStation, and fuck that dumbass greedy bastard Phil Spencer. I don't know why Xbox is doing all this with bringing all their games to PS when PS isn't gonna do the same." That is the crux of the conversation. He's not alone. The majority of Xbox gamers are clueless of what's happening. A lot of gamers are just clueless in general on what's going on. I think for me to resync all this conversation, we're going to go back to an oldie but goodie, right? We got to hear the words from Phil Spencer himself, so let's hear it. Let's hear. This is exactly how Phil Spencer feels. He had this during the Redfall debacle, but now let's listen.
Of out consoling Sony or out consoling Nintendo. There isn't really a great solution or win for us. And I know that will upset a ton of people, but it's just the truth of the matter is that when you're third place in the console marketplace and the top two players are as strong as they are and have, in certain cases, very, very discrete focus on doing deals and other things that will that kind of make being Xbox hard for us as a team. That's on us, not on anybody else. Our vision is that everybody who's on console has to feel like they have a great experience and they're a first-class citizen. They've invested a ton in our platform. But we are not in a position, and I see it out there. I see commentary that if you just build great games, everything would turn around. It's just not true that if we go off and build great games, all of a sudden you're going to see console share shift in some dramatic way. We lost the worst generation to lose in the Xbox One generation, where everybody built their digital library of games. So when you go and you're building on Xbox, we want our Xbox community to feel awesome. But this idea that if we just focused more on great games on our console, that somehow we're going to win the console race, I think doesn't really lay into the reality of most people. Like 90% of the people every year who walk into a retailer to buy a console are already a member of one of the three ecosystems, and their digital library is there. This is the first generation where the big games that they're playing were games that were available last gen. When you think about Fortnite and Roblox and Minecraft, like the continuity from generation to generation is so strong. I see a lot of pundits out there that kind of want to go back to the time where we all had cartridges and discs and every new generation was a clean slate and you could switch the whole console share. That's just not the world that we are in today. There is no world where Starfield's an 11 out of 10 and people start selling their PS5s. That's not going to happen. All
right. So that's the crux of his conversation, right? You heard him. All right. And this was last year. He already told you there's no more thought. Microsoft does not have the mindset in thinking that, hey, when we start the new gen, everything starts over. There's potential to get people to go over from PlayStation to Xbox. More people will be interested in Xbox. If we come up with a new hardware, a new product, we get to do over. They don't believe in that. So at a minimum, if Microsoft does release a new Xbox console, it is not being designed with the intent of trying to grab PlayStation and Nintendo market share. They don't believe in that. They don't believe they're going to gain that market share back or improve sales. That's not going to happen, okay? That's fundamentally something gamers going to have to understand. And it doesn't matter how much you love Xbox. It's irrelevant. Your personal feelings over it means nothing. It doesn't matter how many Xbox-centric podcasts and how much they lie to you about Xbox. It's not changing the reality. You heard it from the boss. There is no situation where Xbox can get, from the console perspective, console market share. It's not happening, okay? Now, let's add that with some facts. So Matt Piscatella from MPD, or Circana, formerly MPD, he gave us an update on how Xbox and PlayStation are doing in the US comparatively to their previous console. And he says this: and it's tough to say that adoption has been hurt too much by current pricing. Switch is getting very close to PS2's lifetime sales in the US, while PS5 is tracking 8% ahead of PS4 pace. That means at this point in time, more PS5s have been sold as compared to this point in time when PS4 gen, last gen was out, how many PS4s they sold. So more PS5s are being sold at a faster rate than PS4s, considering the higher price point that was launched for PlayStation 5 as compared to PlayStation 4. But now to continue, Xbox Series is trending 11% behind Xbox One pace and is now 5% behind the Xbox 360 trend. But Microsoft has certainly expressed a decreased focus on console as an ecosystem driver for better and or worse. Covered this previously in a thread, but PS5 unit sales in the US are currently 8% of PS4 pace and 61% of PS3. Xbox Series is 11% behind Xbox One and 5% behind Xbox 360. So now, not only is Xbox, well, let's put this away. Let's backtrack a little bit. Xbox One was a failed gen. You even heard Phil said it. He said the worst gen to lose was last gen, the Xbox One gen. So that was a failed gen. That was a gen. That was an L. But now this gen, you have the Xbox Series platform, which has the cheapest entry to next gen or current generation gaming, right? With the Xbox Series S, $300, even cheaper. They are trending 11% less than the Xbox One at this point. That means at this point in time, as we're speaking, more people bought the Xbox One than the amount of people that bought the Xbox Series S, even though Xbox Series S has the cheapest price point, meaning there's more opportunity for people to buy an Xbox console at $300 than before, okay? But then it gets worse. Not only are they behind the Xbox One generation, they're behind the 360 generation by 5%. So really, Series S is only really doing better than the OG Xbox, which in the end only sold 25 million consoles total around. Barely anything, okay, in that landscape. The console is not selling, period. So now here's the question, right? When I was brought up in my last video about Microsoft potentially coming into the plans of not releasing a console, if Microsoft is releasing a console, we know a few things. So far, they're making consoles that sell worse than the previous gen. That's just it. They're making consoles people don't really want to buy. That's number one. Number two, their mindset is they don't believe that when they make a console, it's going to compete with PlayStation consoles. It's just not. They don't believe people are going to go. And now all of a sudden, because you got a new Xbox, they're going to jump onto the Xbox train. They don't believe in simply making games is going to get people to play Xbox. Okay? You know, especially away from PlayStation. They don't believe in that. Number three, Microsoft is already committed to putting games on PlayStation. So that's already a done. That's already a done decision. So what do you have to sell the next Xbox? What do you have? You know, you create a new Xbox that doesn't sell. Most likely will sell worse than the Series S and X. So you're talking even less market penetration. Your games are on PlayStation. So what type of console do you make and what is it for? That's going to be the challenge, right? And we're 4 years into the gen, right? Starting, in fact, we're in November. We're already 4 years into the gen. You still got another 4 years. Now, of course, Xbox fanboys are pushing this 2026 rumor as if a new console's ready to launch in 2026. But I don't believe it. I don't think there is going to be a new console in 2026. Mainly because the reason why the Xbox fanboys are saying this is because they want the repeat of the OG Xbox to 360 transition, where Microsoft cut the OG Xbox gen short and launched their console way ahead of the PlayStation. They feel that's going to be a huge advantage into gaining more sales, gaining market share for the next console. But we already heard Microsoft, we just reminded ourselves, They don't believe in any situation when they could get market share from PlayStation. They don't believe in that. That's not their strategy. So the corporate strategy of Microsoft is not to try to compete with Sony to gain market share. They're not doing that. But the Xbox fanboys and influencers, they're creating this strategy for Xbox consoles to create market share. So the fanboys have a strategy, but they have no power to execute the strategy because they're not the shareholders. They're not the decision makers. That's what's funny. I think one of the weird things is Microsoft's relationship with the fans, right? With Xbox Fan Fest and going on podcasts and really, really being tuned with the Xbox community, or at least the content creators. They got y'all thinking you are also the decision makers. Sorry, you're not. None of you guys might make decisions. All this strategy that you guys are doing or trying to do, they're not listening to you. They told you the way forward. They told you they're not competing with PlayStation. They don't believe they can compete with PlayStation. They're putting their games on PlayStation. That's their strategy. So right now, what y'all need to be focusing on is, are they really going to try to push another console? And given all the negativity behind it, number one, it's not even doing as good as a failed console, Xbox One. Then what would be the point of releasing one, right? They would have to come up with a whole new strategy, a whole new purpose, and a whole new reasoning behind this console. And it's not going to be to gain market share or whatever. If anything, it's because they are only concerned about maintaining Game Pass subscribers. That would be it. And if that is the concern, right, maintaining Game Pass subscribers, then it's not going to be about, the next console is not going to be about power or performance or competing with PlayStation. We could do things better than PlayStation. That's not going to happen. Most likely, right, if they do make another console, it will probably be more in line with the Xbox Series strategy and leave it at that. Meaning you got a low costing entry level console that is the cheapest entry to next generation gaming. Maybe $350 to give a little bit of boost. Around $350. But that's it. No Series X version, no higher tier version, just a $350 console that allows you to play next generation games, which means you're allowed to play the next generation games that will go on Game Pass, and you could transition from your Xbox Series consoles to the new console, no problem. You got your games, whatever. But this new console that they release, it's not going to be a powerful console, similar to the Series S. It's just enough to get games for the next generation, and they're probably going to sell it for profit. They're not going to take a loss on it because there's no reason to take a loss because they're not trying to create a market share. They're not going to try to create, or try to compete with PlayStation, right? So you're talking the next generation Series S type console with no X, low costing, just enough, priced enough to get you into next generation gaming, enjoy your Game Pass, have a nice day. They're going to give you 30 FPS games, deal with it. Maybe games will have ray tracing, maybe they're not. They're not going to go, most likely, balls to the walls or bells and whistles with technology. They're not going to do that. There's no reason for them to do that. Why would they try to go, with all the bells and whistles when you could go on PC for that? Or if you really want a console with bells and whistles, Sony is still into that. So you could go with them. So that's really the outlook on this. That's really it. If they do make another console, it's strictly for the Game Pass gamers, and they're not going to go all out for you guys. It's simply not. So you might want to consider that, right? On the flip side now, let me bring this back to PlayStation because this is interesting, right? We're going to go show Famitsu numbers, recent numbers, right? So with PlayStation right here, you can see that for, the first week when the Pro launched, it was the number one seller, but now you can see it drop down to 10K. PS5 Digital Edition is 9K and the PS5 is 6K, right? So overall, PlayStation family is what? That's 25K, 26K overall and stuff like that, right? But the thing I want you to show you is the Switch and how it's dominating. You got the Switch OLED at 48K, the Switch Lite at 14K, and then the Switch XSK, right? Now, there's a stark difference between the Switch and the PlayStation besides, obviously, the sales. It's the product itself. One's a mobile handheld, one's a dedicated console. And as you can see, the room temperature of Japan in terms of how they want to play the games primarily shifted to the mobile side. You still got your console gamers in Japan, just not as much. The majority aren't interested in the handheld. They want to play their games on the go. They want smaller, nice dynamic, tiny systems. That's what they want. That is the new wave, right? So now this brought my idea of, and this is shout out to Craig because he talked about it, but I was able to just, think about it more and more, right? Along the lines of what he was saying on the podcast, right? How you got a lot of gamers, right, in Japan, right? But they're not buying a lot of PS5 games because they don't own a PS5 because it's not a handheld. It's a console. So it's primarily the gamers that are still there in Japan that want a console, they're buying a PS5 and they're buying the PS5 games. But how do you get access to the majority of Japanese gamers? Well, you got to make the device that they want. They want a handheld device. So, in the sense of Japan, a PlayStation 5 portable will do that. You create a PlayStation 5 portable, you sell it to Japan, the majority of gamers are into handhelds, they will buy that more than a PS5. They'll buy that portable handheld, and now they will buy the PS5 games because they get to play it on their handheld. So in the sense of Japan, PS5 portable does seem like a great idea because now they will get back a market that they kind of lost, or they only got the smaller portion of the market, which is the console market, which in Japan is a very smaller, or not very small, but a smaller market compared to the mobile market. So now you create your own mobile device that allows to play PlayStation 5. Japanese gamers will jump on that. So I will see in that region alone, the PlayStation 5 portable, that's what I'm calling it. I'm not saying that's the official name, but that's what I'm calling it. That will be very successful over there. You will see millions of sales on that device. But more importantly, you will see games. You will see now games being bought, right? Because you got a whole new group of gamers that now are willing to play these games, but they want to do it on the device that they want, which is a portable device. So that actually makes sense now. The more I thought about it, the more I'm like, wait a minute. PlayStation 5 portable could be Sony's answer to really get back in a fight in Japan, which is their home turf, right? They lost a lot of market share, simply because they stood with the console. Nintendo has a handheld, which is more apt to what Japanese gamers want. Now, Sony going back into that with the product that Japanese gamers want, they could get back Japan. Now, I don't think they'll be able to really beat Nintendo. I think Nintendo still got Japan on lock, but I think the numbers will be a lot more. You will see a lot more unit sales via the PS5 portable and game sales because of the PS5 portable. The numbers will just simply go up. Now, how does that expand to the rest of the world? That's going to be interesting because if you look at the rest of the world, right, outside of the Switch, which is the biggest seller, every other handheld don't sell that well. They don't. Steam Deck, 5 million sales. Asus ROG, I don't even know if you've even reached 1 million. Legion Go, I have no idea what these numbers. These numbers are very low. But the question is it bad? Is Steam Deck being at 4 million bad? I don't know. Maybe it's a niche market. When I see Meta VR is like at 20 million or more, but totally different market. So I really can't gauge this AAA handheld market, right? I don't know if these numbers are bad or not. You know, I could tell you if Switch only sold 4 or 5 million in 2 years, that would be bad. If PS5 only sold, 4 million in 2 years, that would be bad. Hell, that would be even worse. Hell, even Xbox doesn't even do that bad. But is it bad for a Steam Deck? We really don't know. So we're going to have to wait and gauge and see what happens when the PS5 portable comes out and what it does for the market and see how it is. I think in Japan, it will do fine. It will do fine. I think it do great because you got PS5 games on the platform that Japanese gamers really want. For the rest of the world, I don't know. I really can't gauge it. But anyway, let me know what you think about the video. If you have any comments, thoughts, or opinions, please put it in the comment section. Like the video. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. I will see you guys next Tuesday with the next episode of 60 Frames No Lag Podcast. 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. All right? You guys take care. Enjoy your weekend. And for those of you in America, I hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving Day. All right? Take care. Peace. Grand opening.